Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an IFBB Pro. Today's guest is Marcus Perry. Marcus, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate the opportunity. It means a
Yeah,
lot.
for sure, Marcus. So really excited to chop it up with you, man. We got a lot of talk about. You qualified for the Olympia this year, so we're going to get into all of that. But before we do, I kind of want to just get into your backstory a little bit. I've got a couple questions to kind of lead us in that direction. So the first question I have for you, Marcus, is who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders of all time?
Oh, off the top, number one, Kevin Levrone, um, Flex Wheeler, of course, and I would probably say third, man. That's a tough one, man. Those are my top two. Yeah, those are my
Perfect.
top two.
Okay. Why Kevin Levrone and Flex Wheeler? Why are those your one and two?
Yeah, so for Kevin, it was just like it's more like his look, his fullness, his passion, to try to get that old title. I think that was really cool, man. That drive he still had, to the very end, man. And also with Flex Wheeler, it was just that symmetry and structure, man. I just never seen anything like that, man. That the taper, the pretty pop, everything is just beautiful about Flex Wheeler, man, in the shape, man. So, and that's kind of how I try to structure my training and style and symmetry and so forth. I'm not a large guy, but I try to keep things very like sharp, crisp, tight waist and bring that illusion of appearing big on stage myself. So
Excellent. Can't go wrong with those two. That's for sure.
yeah.
What at what age, Marcus, did you start lifting weights, and then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
Mm. Probably in my early 20s, man, which I had no idea what I was doing. At that time, you were just hitting arms and chest and trying to look good to go out to the bars at that time, man. So I would say I kind of dabbled in around then. I didn't get serious until probably 2015, which I got into powerlifting from a good friend of ours, Jim Seitzer, taught us the whole game of powerlifting, actually. So we powerlifted for many years, and I truly believe that brought that density as far as in my actual build, and actually with my wife as well too. I mean, powerlifting alone and bodybuilding, we can do both together like that, man. It's an excellent combination. It really amplifies your look.
Cool. Very cool. Okay. So I want to kind of get into a little bit of your backstory, your upbringing, your childhood, Marcus. So talk a little bit about like where you grew up, paint that picture for us in terms of those earlier years in your childhood up to about high school. And then once we get to high school, I've got some questions that kind of transition us from there.
Yeah. So I'll give some background. My father is African American and my mother's Creole. So I grew up in more of a foreign household. Um, we had, our ups and downs also when it comes to like, having, we weren't poor or anything like that, but, we live in a very, we live in apartments for a while, then eventually got to, get a home and so forth. So I think that really showed me a real insight to, some of life's, struggles and wanting to do better the older you get and so forth, and really be a better planner and so forth when it comes to, getting older and getting into the real corporate world side. So, I was in the corporate America for a little over, gosh, man, a little over 10 years. So I got to see that corporate side of, of the corporate America and leadership roles. Got out of corporate America, went right into being a 1099 employee, which is the best move I ever made. And, it's one thing in high school, they never teach you how to be, an entrepreneur, man. It's always the W-2, go to college, which I did, work for someone else. But then once you get out of that, you realize that being an entrepreneur is definitely the way to go, man. So some of the things I've learned in life.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to touch on your parents for a quick minute.
Yeah.
Is there something looking back now obviously as a grown adult, a grown man, do you ever look back, or have you looked back and kind of say, I got that from my mom, I got that from my dad. Did they say something to you all the time? Did they instill some values into you as a young person? If so, kind of touch on that for a quick minute, please.
Yeah. So I think I got my patience from both sides of my parents. I'm a very, very chill guy. I'd say for my father, he definitely instilled in me as far as, the work ethic and so forth. If you want something, you got to be, plan it and go after it. And I say with my mother, I got a lot of like the compassion side of it. learn to understand folks and look at things from a different perspective. So I got a really good balance of both of that right there. That's definitely played a big role as far as being an adult now, for sure.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, now did you play sports? What type of activities were you involved with when you were growing up, Marcus?
Yeah, so high school, just basically football. But really after that, I didn't, have any desire to play any other other sports really. Dabbled in martial arts a little bit for many years, and this kind of just fell into working out, right? Go to the gym with some buddies, don't really know what you're doing, and to kind of just dabble from there. But I didn't find my passion for bodybuilding and probably until 2014, really, to really start feeling comfortable, realizing that okay, I think I can be kind of good at this if I just kind of stick with it and learn from it. So
Okay. Now, you mentioned going to college. So talk about your time in college. What did you study? And then once you graduated from college, where did life kind of take you from that point?
yeah, so I went to community college at Columbus State. So I got my associates there. I'll be honest with you, I didn't have the funds to pay for college, so that worked out. So luckily enough, though, I had enough skills, transferable skills, to really get in the door of corporate America. I think my first corporate role was with I don't want to say Verizon. Then from Verizon, I went to JP Morgan Chase for many, many years, and then to Northwestern Mutual, which I was a recruiter there. So I've been in that corporate realm for a while, corporate space, and learned to navigate really well. And I think that's really helped me as far as, even dealing with people and relationships and things like that, man, when you have that good balance.
Mm-hmm. So in terms of your corporate experience, you mentioned kind of working with people and stuff like that, but were there any lessons that kind of stick out? Maybe something that you did wrong, or maybe a high point that really taught you a very valuable life lesson that kind of does anything pop up in your mind when I ask you that? Talk about that, Marcus.
Yeah, really. Listen to understand. 100%, man. Listen to understand, because I think a lot of times that we're such in a rush to get our point across, we're not listening to the other person. So even though you and I are talking right now, you take your time, answer questions, and just really, really listen to understand. I mean, that's key, man, when it comes to with any type of conversation you have with anyone.
How did you learn that lesson? Was that just over time, or was there a certain boss or somebody that kind of shared that information with you? Because that is a very powerful lesson that I don't think a lot of people, unfortunately, in adulthood really realize that.
Yeah, I say my first boss, his name was Rod Vaughn, and I think I probably learned that from him actually, and just learning to once you start managing people and learning different people's and how basically how they're wired, you learn to really craft that that skill, really listening to understand, because everyone's wired differently. You're gonna have some guys or some folks that are just wired emotionally, some folks are driven by money, and some folks are just driven by natural passion. So you got to be able to know who you're dealing with, understand them too, and be able to be very relatable.
Hmm. Okay, so you said something there that I want to ask you. So you said something like different people are driven by different things. Some people are driven by career, money, getting the next car, whatever it is.
Yeah.
During your time as a corporate individual and as a younger person, what was kind of the driving force in your life? Was it to climb the corporate ladder? Was it to make more money? What was that at that time? And then has that shifted over the years as you've gotten more successful within bodybuilding and fitness?
Yeah. So in my younger years, I have to be transparent. Definitely, I would say money was the motivator at that time. And then, of course, the older you get, you realize that money comes and goes, right? So I think now where I'm at now, it's more about just the passion of being able to complete a task. Like even in bodybuilding itself, it's very tough. It's one of the most tough mentally, physically, all that stuff puts it's a very heavy toll on you. So I think for me, it's being able to know, okay, I want to be better than the last show. Change this body part. Bring this body part up, things like that. It's more of a refining type at this point for me.
Right. Cool. Okay. Now you said that we touched on the corporate. Before we fully dive into the bodybuilding, I want to touch on the business side of things, because that's obviously a big part of all of our lives. So Going from corporate, when did you decide that you were going to kind of go in the direction of being an entrepreneur? Was that something that it was hard for you to kind of take that step outside of the security of the regular corporate paycheck? Walk us through that a little bit, please.
Yeah, so it got to the point where I was just burnt out, to be honest with you, in the corporate world of, we had a lot of bosses, but we didn't have a lot of leadership, and I was just burnt out. So a buddy of mine who I grew up with, Will Moss, he owns a company. I was many companies, but the one company I work for now is called HBCU Connect. He was like, man, please come over here, man, and manage some of my staff and become our VP of business development, man. What we do is awesome. We work with many different high-level companies like Chase and Amazon and Google, all these large players. You'd be basically managing those accounts. You work with them directly, but you have the autonomy of doing what you want and work from home. I said, you know what? Your timing is right. And to be honest, it was a tough decision because, as you mentioned, in the corporate side, you get stuck on, will I have insurance? Will I have a steady income and things like that? You just gotta just make that leap, man. Just go for it. That's the truth.
Now, do you and your wife do coaching? Because I know your wife is your coach, which we're going to get into that in a little bit because that's very unique. But do you yourself do some coaching, or you and your wife kind of like a team in terms of coaching? Talk about that.
Yeah, so we just launched our company HP Fit Lifestyle actually, and it's active now for about a month. Right now, we currently have a little over 21 lifestyle people that we coach now. So we do on the competition side, and then the everyday lifestyle side as well. But actually, we have more like corporate CEO folks, that just want to just be able to live healthy and live a lifestyle. So they're competitors right now. So it's growing. It picked up faster than we thought it was going to pick up. So we had to slow it down a bit until she's done with her show, but it's going really, really well. Definitely feel blessed. That's for
sure. What's HP stand for?
Hayley Perry, actually.
Oh, got it. And that's your wife's first name, Hayley, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Very cool. Like it. Awesome. Okay. Now let's transition then, Marcus, into let's get into like some bodybuilding talk here. So you said that you didn't start really lifting weights until your early 20s, which that's a little unique in of itself. But you said really you started off powerlifting. That was kind of the foundation. Then you transitioned to bodybuilding. So talk about your years powerlifting. Did you ever compete in a powerlifting meet? Talk about that. And then walk us through how you went from powerlifting transitioning into bodybuilding.
Yeah. So we got into powerlifting from a good friend of ours named Jim Seitzer. He's the creator of Bandbell, which is the bars that we typically use when we train anyway. So I didn't know anything about powerlifting. I see all the guys in the back room at this gym we used to train at years ago, screaming and hollering and lifting all these heavy weights, doing like 1 and 2 rep maxes. I'm like, what the heck are these guys doing? This stuff's goofy. What the hell? So, Jim brought me in, showed my wife and I basically how to powerlift, how to deadlift, rack pull, things like that. It's definitely a whole different world compared to bodybuilding. As far as bodybuilding, we're looking to, craft the muscle and shape the muscle and doing more reps and so forth. So I truly believe, again, that powerlifting brings true density, whether to someone's physique, hands down. There's a lot of guys out there that have really good physiques, but from the back, for example, there's no density there. There's no fullness there. And I think that powerlifting can definitely help with that too.
So how many years did you do powerlifting? And then did you actually get into competitive powerlifting, or did you just train as a powerlifter?
Just train as a powerlifter. So we trained from like 2015 until about almost the end of 2018. Where we pretty much where we kind of just stopped from there. I think we got to the point where, okay, we got a good base. Let's stick more into bodybuilding now and just focus on the next level.
Okay. Yeah. Now, before we go further, let's talk about your wife, because she's an IFBB Pro, and like I mentioned, she's also your coach. So I'm very curious. How did you guys meet? And then before we kind of get into your career of bodybuilding, just talk about how you guys met, and then when did she turn pro? What is she a pro in? And then talk about how you came to the determination that you were going to have your wife be your coach, because that's very uncommon, I think, especially once you get into the IFBB.
Yeah. So typical. We were in the gym. Saw her in the gym. I'm like, okay, she's kind of cute. I wonder what she's about. I'm in her training and so forth, man. Didn't say anything the first time. Weeks go by, finally said, hey, what's your name? Of course, the typical, hey, do you compete? She's like, oh, I'm getting ready for my first show. And we started training together as partners from there because, again, she didn't know anything about powerlifting anyway. And this is during the time that, I was in the powerlifting stage and shifted her into powerlifting. And then we just kind of, our bond just grew from there, man, from friends to best friends to, you get engaged and getting married and so forth, man. And she's definitely my best friend, man, hands down. She knows me in and out. So after that, she turned pro last year in North Americans. And then we decided this year that because she has the background and knowledge, man. Like she's walked the walk. She knows my body. Her being a nurse practitioner, she knows the blood work, things like that. It just made perfect sense, man. So we did it. It came out well. We're successful in this show, and I love it, man. She keeps you accountable, man. Even for her, and she's in her show right now. I love prepping together because we keep each other accountable.
Mm-hmm. Now, what division within women's competition does she compete in? Is she figure or bikini or what?
Women's physique.
Oh, women's physique. Okay.
Yeah, women's physique, man. So that's a tough one too, man, because the women's physique divisions, like they got a lot of women in that division who I think should probably transition over to bodybuilding because they're such a they're large. So I'm hoping that with her look, with her fresh look, being pretty and balanced, I hope that they'll really like what they see, what we bring to the stage this year, man. Which I really think they will. I think she's going to shock a lot of people.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Okay, now in terms of the coach, significant other, spouse relationship, I mean, walk us through that a little bit because again, it's unique. I've heard of it a little bit, and I know there's some elite CrossFit athletes that have their significant other, their spouses, their coach and stuff. But I mean, how do you balance, if there is balance, coach spouse relationship? You're both prepping. Like, walk us through that because I'm sure it's important to both of you that you have the strongest marriage as possible. You also want the best results for each other as athletes and coach athlete relationship. So walk us through some of those balances and lines that you guys have for each other.
Yeah, that's a good question. So at the end of the day, man, it comes to our relationship is number one first. Bodybuilding is just a passion, something that we both love. So we do a very good job of balancing that out. We understand what's important and what needs to be put to the side. Now don't get me wrong. Now your last week of prep, man, we're both sometimes like kind of just you're excited. You're getting ready to get on stage and things like that. You want to make a good impression. But at the end of the day, man, when it comes to bodybuilding, we chose to do this. So this whole thing of when you hear about people being evil and mean and snapping at folks, we don't tolerate that, man, because we chose to do this, man. So there's no reason to do that. There's no reason to be that way towards anyone else because you chose to step in this arena, man. So that's the way our mindset is throughout the entire prep, man, pretty much.
Very cool. Okay, so let's get into bodybuilding then. So powerlifting was the foundation, and then you transitioned into bodybuilding. So why don't you talk about, first of all, I want to ask you, do you remember like the first like IFBB Pro, like professional bodybuilder that you saw, whether it was like on a YouTube video or a magazine? Like you're probably closer to my age than some of these like 21, 22-year-olds I'm having on. They don't even know what magazines are. But do you remember who the first actual like, wow, that dude is crazy looking guy, and who was it if you remember?
Ronnie Coleman.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, man. Ronnie Coleman, man. I was like, oh my God. Especially back in the day, when the Arnold was like huge and giving away all these freebies. I remember going there as like a youngster, man, like seeing Ronnie Coleman going, oh my God, this guy's a monster. That's my first one. Still to this day, man, I never forget that image of Ronnie Coleman. I first saw him at the Arnold, man. It was just mind blowing when you saw him in his prime, man. It's incredible, man. So Ronnie Coleman.
Love it. Not a bad one to see for the first time, right?
Absolutely.
So transition us then into what year did you start competing? Did you have a coach your first time? How did that first competition go? What division did you compete in? Kind of just touch on that for us, Marcus.
Yeah, I think my first show was I kind of jumped in 2013. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Didn't really have a coach, at that time. This is before like Instagram coaches and all that stuff, man. And back there was just a lot of bad information, man. Cut, don't use any salt and, no carbs. So I didn't really know what I was doing. So then I think 2014, I won a local show here at the Ohio. I thought, okay, it's kind of cool. I still didn't get serious about bodybuilding. I was kind of just playing around with it. But my first coach, who actually turned pro with, was actually Matt Porter, man. Rest his soul. I mean, he was a solid guy, man. He's the first one that really believed in me and said, hey, man, you got something going on here, man. That we can do this. And we turned pro in North Americans, man. And I miss him, man. He's a solid dude, man. Yeah.
Now, did you turn pro in classic, or was it men's physique? Was it bodybuilding?
Bodybuilding, heavyweight, yeah.
Cool.
At North American. So, and then I transitioned.
What year was that?
20, was it 18? I want to say 2018 because I think 2019 is when I got hurt. So I think it was 2018, I believe.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Love it. Okay. Now I want to ask you then, Matt Porter, I've had a lot of guys on the podcast that had him as a coach at some point. They've all spoken very highly of him. Was it just through like the message boards or something? How did you come across Matt? And then why did you kind of decide that you were going to go with him? And then just talk about maybe how he helped you take it from, maybe that amateur level to helping you level up, and then obviously then turning pro.
Yeah. So we actually met at one of the Arnold Expos. And we had talked about, linking up, coaching, and so forth. Because I've always watched his YouTube videos and so forth, and I like what he stood for. I like his message and the way he talked about things, and very detailed about everything from food to gear, all that stuff. And we met the Arnold, linked up, and then just having a real coach and seeing real protocol, of structure, of each meal plan and so forth, and what to do, man, I was like, wow, so this is what it's like to have a real coach. It's pretty cool. So we did it, man. I miss him, man. He's a solid guy, man.
Now, did he kind of help you evolve in terms of your training? And if so, talk about that.
I wouldn't say more of the training, but I think as far as the knowledge base of, knowing how to eat properly, even during prep and off season. Because a lot of times, man, we get done with a show, we don't have the knowledge base. You just eat like a jerk and you blow up. Where he actually, he broke it down like, okay, well, this is post-show. This is what we're going to do. Boom, 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 boom. Like, okay. That's pretty damn cool. Training-wise, we've always kind of just trained ourselves, man. My wife, again, Jim Seitzer, Bam Bell, we've all just trained ourselves, man, and kind of just figured out what worked best for us. For example, our style of training is a little bit different because I haven't touched a steel bar in probably since 2014. We don't use steel bars, so it's just too hard on the joints, man. So our style is a little bit different. So,
okay, so I'm going to ask you some questions about that. So, okay, so what now? Let's talk about that. So what are you talking about in terms of you haven't touched a steel bar in years? And I know I can't remember the name, but that the bar you have the Instagram handle in your Instagram bio. So talk about this bar and why, I guess. Why is the reasoning behind it?
Yeah, so, I mean, don't get me wrong. Steel has its place. I like to use steel for heavy rack pulls, but I haven't touched steel as far as using for like chest or shoulders or squats. We switched to Bambell bars, probably 2015. These bars are just very joint friendly, right? So the bars, you can use plates or you can use bands on the bar. It just makes it very joint friendly opposed to steel, which is very linear in nature, man. Like I can't tell you how many times it's happened to me where I've seen guys, they get done benching, they do this, right? It's just discomfort, man. So the whole mythology of well, you need steel to grow, that's not true. Your body has no idea. Your body is going to respond based off, the volume and so forth. It has no idea of using steel or dumbbell or whatever. It's based on how you train, and you got to be able to train smart.
Okay, so this bar that you're talking about, is it? Because I went to their Instagram and I've seen them before, but is it? I mean, what's it made out of? Is it like bamboo, or is it just look like bamboo, or what's it actually made out of?
Yeah, so you're gonna give me now. I don't know the full way to describe as far as what's made of. There's two different bars. There's a Rhino Flex bar, which you can use strictly for, steel plates. Doesn't require bands. And there's the earthquake bar, which is more high kinetic type training that requires bands on the end of the bar. High kinetic training, keeps your stabilizers strong, your joints healthy, and things like that. So we switch between both, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the actual structure then? Because everybody likes to know, especially you IFBB pros, everybody wants to know the secrets, right? So yeah. What is the structure of you and your wife's training look like? Like, talk about like your training split, maybe here just recently. And then what is the actual structure, nuts and bolts of your training? I mean, are you doing like a top set and then back off sets? Or are you doing high volume? So just get into that for us, please, Marcus.
Yeah, please. So I'll touch on the legs first. That's my favorite body part, trains legs. So for us, we train our hamstrings first. We'll warm up first. We start with RDLs. That's our favorite go-to. And then we'll go right to more of a glute type training, which is the that hip thrust type machine. Believe it or not, I do that machine. I don't know if a lot of guys do or not, but I think it's made a big difference as far as my glute development, especially on stage and so forth. So we train, again, hamstrings first, and then we move on to squats and so forth. And then a lot of lunges and so forth from there, and a lot of adductors. Adductors for me are just something that I train twice a week. And I think that it definitely shows on stage when you look at folks from, guys from the back. Some have adductors and some have a big space there, which shows, where they need more adductor training there. So that's how we do our split as far as, for legs. For chest, we actually start with rear delts first, which is a little bit different. And then we move on to chest exercises from, flat to incline, flies, things like that. So we do things a little bit differently. We don't follow the same regimen like a lot of folks do. It's a little bit different.
Yeah. Okay. Now, I know John Meadows, he was really big on, I saw a lot on his videos, like starting with hamstrings. And that was just to kind of, get the blood flowing in your, obviously your hamstrings, but also the entirety of your leg muscles. And then starting with rear delts before you do chest training. I'm assuming your training is very focused on injury prevention, and you're doing these movements first to kind of get the blood flowing, do something a little bit maybe not as taxing as like the quad movements, the chest movements. Am I right in saying that? And just talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And to touch on that, we don't even use leg extensions, man. We cut that out over probably 3 years ago, because we found out, at least for us, man, is that it started to create more additional pain in the knees, man, doing heavy leg extensions. Some guys can tolerate it. Like if you have thick joints, for example, like a John Meadows, he could tolerate that. For someone like myself who has small joints, I just know there's a lot of discomfort, man. As soon as I remove leg extensions, it stopped.
Cool. Okay, now let's get into so you turned pro. I think you said in 2018. Now, I think you mentioned earlier in 2019 you had an injury. Is that correct? Why don't you talk about that and how did that kind of affect you moving forward in terms of the competition side of things?
Yeah, man, that was a crazy. I've never been injured before my entire life, man. So yeah, we were using a hack squat machine, one that the little pads go right here. And we just kept, felt good, kept loading it up, kept blowing it up. And we got to 800 pounds on the hack squat and felt great. Did 12, 14 reps, got done with that. And a friend of mine was like, you know what, let's go 900. And you know that inner voice in your head that says, nah, walk away, man, you're good. And I said that too. I was like, no, I'm good where I'm at. He said, no, you got it. That the last few reps were super easy. Go ahead and do it. I said, all right. Got underneath there, man. Went down to come up. All you heard was pop, pop, pop. Racked it and fell to the ground, man. So I had a small tear in my patella, man. I was out, man, for about 8.5 months. And then, of course, COVID hit. So at that time in mindset, I was like, well, my bodybuilding career is done. I'm screwed. But I didn't. The crazy thing I did was I took that the dumbbell bar and I started, after surgery and so forth, I got the go ahead. I started using gallons of water hanging from the bands at home, man, just getting some blood in there and just trying to just get back to normal. But it took me a while to come back, man. It really did. So anyone's ever had an injury out there, I totally understand what you went through. But it's it's something that humbles you real quickly, because before you're injured, man, you think you can lift anything, man. And that was a humbling experience.
Is that kind of where you started implementing the type of training that you are currently doing then, like with that bar and then with the like doing hamstrings before quads, or was that all stuff pre-injury?
I was already doing it pre, and it's funny you say that because the OSU surgeon who actually did the surgery is like, he said, Marcus, I've never seen a tear like yours before, because it's a small tendon tear. He said normally it rolls up the thigh, right? So he said you got some strong tendons. And he said he started asking about training and so forth, and he knew what the bar was about because some of the guys at OSU, their athletics department, they have the same bar and they use it for the strength training. So thank God that my tendons were able, to withstand that type of injury.
Okay. So you didn't make your pro debut until after your injury, after COVID. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's talk about that then. When did you make your pro debut? Now you turned pro as a bodybuilder. You qualified for Classic Physique Olympia this year. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that transition from open bodybuilding into classic, was that something that you were already moving in that direction before you got injured, or did the injury and COVID and just having some time to think kind of move you in that direction? Talk about that. And then when was your pro debut?
Yeah, so I knew I didn't want to be growing to an open bodybuilder. I just didn't want to do it. I don't think I had the frame to put on that type of size. And I didn't want to, man. I don't like to walk around heavy. Like off season, I have no problem walking around over 250. I don't even like that. So I was like, nah, class is more my thing. My shape and symmetry, it just fits me better. So I did Tampa last year, which is a tier 1 show. I said, if I'm gonna do my pro debut, let's just go all in and see see what I could do. So last year at Tampa, there was 40 guys in the division. Took 3rd out of 40. So I was super pumped about that, man. So I figured, okay, well, if I can do this, I think I can get better for next year and qualify. And that's exactly what we did.
Okay. So Tampa Pro 2021, you got 3rd. And then you just competed, was it last weekend or 2 weekends ago? It was pretty recent, right?
Yeah, Hurricane Pro.
Okay, was that last weekend?
Yeah, I guess it was last weekend. Yeah, I guess it was close enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was sometime here. Time flies, man.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
so talk about because Tampa Pro, that's usually what's that, mid summer or towards the end of summer?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, so you had at least, you took about a year off then in terms of before you step back on stage. So so coming out of Tampa Pro, getting 3rd out of 40 guys, your pro debut, that's very impressive. What was your mindset then after the Tampa Pro last year in terms of what did you kind of spend your off season doing? Was it putting on more size? Was it just refining? Walk us through that. How did your off season go? And then when did you start prep for the Hurricane Pro? And then kind of walk us through that prep leading up to your qualification for the Olympia.
Yeah, so I know I need to bring some things up. So we brought my arms up, legs up a bit. But the one thing in classic though, man, it can be tough because we have a weight cap. So when you have a weight cap, certain body parts may have to suffer a bit, right? So I stopped training back. I only trained back once every 2 weeks. That's one of my strongest points in my back. So I brought my arms up. We focused on that. Brought my legs up and hamstrings up. So that's one thing I would say for someone that's in a division where you have a weight cap. I mean, something we'll have to suffer in some type of way. There's no way around it. We did a 16-week prep into the Hurricane Pro. And I think it was a little bit smoother this time because I kept a cleaner off season opposed to before, so that I think that made the transition into this year much smoother. And I was able to kind of just weigh in no problem. But don't get me wrong, there's always some hiccups there during the process because your last few weeks, man, your stomach, you start having stomach issues, man, because you're not getting enough food in, not enough fats in, and you can't go to the restroom sometimes. You got to take things to go to the restroom. But other than that, man, I think this is a pretty smooth prep. Okay.
All right. Now, before we talk about the Hurricane Pro, you mentioned bringing up your arms. That's something that a lot of us struggle with, at least getting those biceps, right? Yeah. So what did you find, or what have you found that really works for you, Marcus, in terms of arm training? and like what movements have you focused on during the off season to bring up those arms?
Really be more intentional with each session, right? Because before with arm training, I don't think I was very intentional. I'll be like, okay, I would do like 3-4 sets. Okay, I'm done. This time I was way more intentional with my training, man. And I found that doing more like incline curls, standing curls work well, and just single arm concentration curls really well. You can really just concentrate and focus on the blood getting into the muscle. So just being more intentional with my training definitely played a big toll.
And do you combine bicep training with tricep, or do you split that up?
It depends how I feel. Sometimes I may do biceps and hamstrings. I would change things up, so I want to keep the body guessing.
Okay, cool. I like it, man. You guys are definitely unconventional, because a lot of guys come on here, it's like the same movements, the same split, the same routine for the last 10 years. So I like that you guys are progressive and you guys are switching things up. Okay, so what was your personal goal going into the Hurricane Pro? Was your goal to go from third place last year pro debut to winning? Or were you just wanting to get first call outs? What was your mindset? And then when you actually won, got that Olympia qualification, I mean, talk about some of the feelings, the emotions, because obviously you had to be happy on some level, right?
Yeah. So the goal was to win it, hands down. I just wanted to go in and just win it. And what's cool, well, for some, I like to stay submarine silent through my prep. I don't post anything. I don't say what show I'm doing. I just prefer just to do the work, man, and just pop up at a show. So that's just, I'm kind of like old school like that. Like kind of like you mentioned about the magazines back in the day. Back in those days, you didn't know what show they were doing unless you're reading a magazine, right? So I just prefer just to do the work, man, and just appear. So the goal was to win the show, get the qualification, and then come into the Olympian, man, and see what I can do against the best in the world. Because this year's Olympia, in our division, is bananas. I mean, I think it's over 50 plus guys now. I mean, it's insane, man, compared to like 5 years ago. You knew who the top 5 were going to be pretty much 5 years ago. Now, it's nutty, man. So for the Olympia, if I can just, I'm be realistic, if I can just hit at least top 10, better would be great. That's a win, man, because of all the talent that's currently in that division.
What was your goal kind of from the get go? Like, let's take a couple steps back. So when you're like on the come up in terms of competing in the NPC, and then you get your pro card. I mean, what were your thoughts kind of like back then in terms of like how far you wanted to take this? Was it always to step on the Olympia stage, or are you to the type of person, Marcus, where you just kind of like take it day by day, year by year, competitive season by competitive season, just see where the cards fall? Like, where were you at back then? And then what's your kind of mental approach now as a professional bodybuilder?
Yeah, so I'll be transparent. When I turned pro, that was an amazing feeling, North Americans, man. You finally got that pro card. But I really didn't think about the Olympia stage at that time. It wasn't on my radar. I was just more like I wanted to get better, continue to work with Porter. At that time, we had talked about winning going and winning a pro show, and unfortunately, he passed. And that time, I was kind of like, well, I was just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. To be honest with you. And then things shift, and then you just realize, okay, I'm gonna keep going, see what I can do. It's just one of those things where you kind of got to learn how to navigate through this sport, man, and really understand the direction where to go. Because I'm very patient. I'm not one of these guys where it's like I gotta have that microwave effect, slam a bunch of stuff. I'm very patient, man. So I'll take my time with it, man, and do it right.
Is there an aspect of health and longevity kind of in your approach as well, Marcus? Even not wanting to, pursue being an open men's bodybuilder, are those some thoughts that you and maybe your wife as well, with her medical background, are those thoughts and even conversations that you and your wife have with each other in terms of health? And obviously, I'm sure you want to have kids and start a family at some point. Like, talk about that, because that's kind of a hot topic at this point in all divisions of bodybuilding.
Yeah, so I get my blood work done twice a year, and it's just something that I'm more comfortable doing it that way. We keep things very, 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 very moderate. In the past, being younger and in NPC days, you try to do things at higher amounts. You get no results out of that, man. It's dumb. So we found doing smaller amounts, to be transparent, works well. It's the way that my body responds to, smaller, moderate amounts and feed the body. And I get the best growth out of that. So yeah, for longevity, I have no desire to rush anything, man. It's not worth it. There's no, at the end of the day, man, there's no treasure at the end of that rainbow, man, at the end. So you got to have your priorities, intact, family first, career, if your passion's bodybuilding and other passions as well. Just make sure those things are in line for sure.
For sure. Yep, absolutely. Okay, now before you're all done competing as a professional bodybuilder, is there something that you would? I mean, you've already won a pro show, which a lot of guys will never be able to say that. But beyond that, is there anything else that you would like to accomplish as a competitive pro bodybuilder before you step away from competing on the stage?
Wow. I would love to see my wife get on the O stage, man. Yeah, I do. I really do. I really think she has that fresh, balanced look to do it. We're just not gonna play that size game, So, I would love to see that happen, man. At least for her to win a pro show and things like that. Because, I mean, at the end of the day, man, she shines, I shine. So, that's the way we look at things, man. So, and that's about how my mindset is, man. I just want to make sure that she goes out there and kills it, man, and things like that. And that's kind of how I'd want to walk away from it. That'd be kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah, that would be very cool. Very cool. Now, does your wife coach herself then, or does she have a coach for herself, or are you coaching her? How does that work?
Good question. No, she has her own coach. It's got him, Derek. He's good. Loud. I think it's Loud. I can't remember the name of his company, but he's really good. He's smart with everything too, man. And very detailed with things. So yeah, she has her own. I think it'd be pretty tough for someone to coach themselves, man. That's just too much. We're constantly, changing things, or it wouldn't be a wise move, at least at this level, I think.
Right. Okay, I want to ask you about social media, Instagram specifically, because that's kind of where the bodybuilding fitness community really hangs out. Now, you're a career individual, and your whole, from what I gather from you from just our 45-minute conversation, it's like bodybuilding is a passion of yours. It's a hobby of yours. It's not your life. It's not all consuming. It's just a part of the lifestyle you live. It's a part of Marcus Perry. It's not your identity. And that's kind of refreshing because, a lot of times, especially as people are trying to get their pro card, they're trying to, win a pro show, they're trying to get to the Olympia. Bodybuilding is who they are, and it's their identity. And that really ties into what I'm trying to get at in terms of asking you here in a minute with social media. I think social media can really consume us. It can distract us. It can be very toxic. I don't really like using that word, but it's the truth. It can be very unhealthy for a lot of us, myself included. I have to have boundaries on it with the podcast and stuff because you can get sucked in. So for you, Marcus, with everything that you have going on outside of bodybuilding, outside of fitness, and it's not your identity, how do you navigate social media? How do you utilize Instagram, just for yourself personally, maybe for your coaching business? What say you on that topic?
That's a good one. So what immediately comes to mind is I think for anyone even wanting to starting into it, or even folks that are currently, seasoned at it, you got to be social media savvy. And what I mean by that is that don't get caught up in all the stuff you see being posted or comments about yourself, things like that. You're going to have some folks that are going to, root for you. And you have some folks who just don't like you because and they don't even know you. We tune that noise out, completely tune that stuff out. Like we don't respond to anything negative. It's just something you learn to do, because in my mind, I don't think that social media, IG, is really real. It's just, they don't know you. They don't know who you really are. All they know is what you post out there. So why am I going to get upset about something that's not even real? So it's funny. This conversation was very similar to we had someone who's just starting to get into NPC bodybuilding. One of the first things we told him was that, one, have your finances in order, because you start out in bodybuilding, man, and if you don't have any, some funds, they can be pricey, from your tans to your, purchase of your trunks, competition fees, things like that. Have your finances ready. Number two, have a good support system. And number three, have a knowledgeable coach. Those are the three things I recommend for anyone looking to get into what we do. Those things have to be in order. If not, there's going to be some issues. So And of course, as you mentioned, social media, you got to be social media savvy and just tune out the noise, man, because it's not real.
Yeah, right. That's great. I love that perspective, Marcus. Okay, we're gonna start wrapping things up here in a quick minute. Before we do, I just want to ask you, in terms of a classic physique, right? There's over 50 competitors, as you mentioned, qualified for the Olympia. But are there some guys? I mean, they're obviously they're your peers, but are there some physiques? Are there some guys within classic physique that you kind of like see their physiques on Instagram or wherever, and you're like, man, like that dude's got it going. If so, who are some of those physiques currently? Some of your peers that you really admire or respect?
Yeah, I gotta give a shout. Well, obviously, Seaman's number one. I do think this will be his last year competing, though. I think so. I think he's going to take his energy in more towards the business aspect. I think he's going to retire after this year. Just my opinion. But to answer your question, probably the guys from Brazil, man. Like Brazil, man, they're bringing some heat. So I'm just excited, or hope they have the opportunity to stand against some of those top guys like that. Brazil, Germany, and so forth, and just see, what we can do at the end of the day. But Brazil's bringing some heat, man. I mean, they really are.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay, fun question for you, Marcus. Give me two of your gym pet peeves.
Oh man.
If you can't think of two,
yeah.
at least give me one.
Oh, when someone's sitting on the bench, man, they're on their phone, man. Oh my gosh. Like, dude, come on. It's been like 6 minutes. That's number one. Number two, just being courteous, man, putting the weights back, man, or just that. That's probably my first two. Yeah.
Okay. Yep. That's something I've noticed owning a small little gym here in Iowa, and even being in bigger gyms, just traveling and stuff, is like gym etiquette really is something that it's non-existent. And we kind of see that even within our culture. Like I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm 35, so my generation younger, I was like, we don't even know what etiquette is in terms of like please and thank you, looking somebody in the eyes and talking to them. I mean, we don't even know what that is, let alone gym etiquette. So it's like, man, it's interesting to see how you see our culture moving in a direction, and then you go into the gym and it's like, dude, it's there too. You can't really get away from it. But no, I think that's huge in terms of just respect. And I think that's something too, like when you're a bodybuilder, whether you're the type of bodybuilder that's a jerk or not, us bodybuilders kind of already carry some negative connotations. So if you can maybe break that within a public gym setting and just be respectful, be courteous, be that example in terms of gym etiquette, I think that can be really attractive to people in terms of like, hey man, this guy is an awesome person. He's got a great physique. I want to kind of be like that. I think we could have more positivity within bodybuilding athletes put out there and demonstrated. Would you agree with that?
Hands on, man. Absolutely 100%. Like if you do some research about myself, man, or just ask, hit some followers up on my page or anything, that's exactly how we are in the gym, man. We speak to everyone. Like I've even seen, this is weird, I've seen guys that are pros walk in and introduce themselves as, hi, I'm IFBB Pro, blah, blah, blah. To me, that is the goofiest thing ever, man, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's about who you are as a person, man, how you treat people, man. That's what it comes down to, man. It's just that's just my thing, man.
Yeah. No, I get it. And the thing is, I think a lot of people have to realize in terms of like being an IFBB Pro, or if you think you're a big time NPC athlete, like bodybuilding is such a small little niche within all athletics and sports. Some people wouldn't even consider bodybuilding a sport or athletics. I mean, so sometimes, because every once in a while I'll get a guy on here and just, I'm really good at like sensing people's energy, even through Zoom and through the screen. You can just tell some guys are super arrogant and they think they're big time. I just want to be like, dude, like outside of like the small little world that's following you on Instagram, nobody knows who you are and nobody cares. Like, like just be humble. Like just, like be that person that is big and strong and impressive physique wise, but be humble, be meek and just be a great example. Cause man, like when you guys are pros, I tell people this all the time, like a lot, and I think some of you realize this, but a lot of people don't realize, Marcus, is the fact that as soon as you get that IFBB Pro card, there you have a platform, and there are people that are going to listen to you just because you have IFBB Pro in front of your name or as a title or what have you. Like, there's young people, there's older people. They're going to listen to you. They're going to observe you. They're going to watch you. They're going to do exactly what you're doing. If we go back to the magazines, we used to do Ronnie Coleman workouts and Jay Cutler workouts because they're IFBB pros. They're the best of the best. So I just think, those of you who realize the platform that you do have and you're using it for positivity, it's great. And some of you out there that are IFBB pros or top NPC athletes that don't realize the platform you have and you're using it not in a positive way, I would encourage you to step it up and level it up, because people are watching, people are listening, and people are going to follow and do what you are doing, whether you think so or not. So I think we'll wrap it up there, Marcus. I want to give you kind of the last chance here, or the opportunity to share any final thoughts, any final words. I know you're sponsored by All Max, so if you want to talk a little bit about All Max, any shout outs, Instagrams for you, your wife, coaching, whatever you want to leave with us, the platform's yours. I'll do a quick outro and that'll be a wrap.
Cool, man. Appreciate it. Definitely All Max for sure. We've been All Max since 2016, man. Great company, great products. Obviously Bam Bell is also one of our sponsors too, man. How we obviously affects our training and so forth. I'll leave you with this right here to kind of piggyback what you mentioned as far as being humble and having the title of IFBB Pro. I think that having this title is not something that everyone can obtain, but two, you're 100% right. Stay humble, because at the end of the day, man, when you walk outside of that gym in the real world, no one knows what that even means. So it's stay humble and remember that people are watching you. Number one, and number two is that be positive. When we're in the gym, man, people walk up to us because they know that we're super chill. And just ask questions, whether it be posing and things like that, man, because we're super chill people, because that's just who we are. So I'm one of those guys. My wife is too. We're just here to help folks, man. Truly genuine people. And if you look at some of our posts that we do on Instagram, it's always something with substance, man. It's not always just these grueling workouts and just, throwing weights down and all that stuff, man. There's always a message in our posts, man. And that's what we try to deliver, man, to our audience, man. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Why don't you give us your Instagram? And if you know what your wife's Instagram is, what's her Instagram? And then if somebody does want to connect with you guys in terms of coaching, Marcus, is Instagram the best way to connect with you guys for that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So my Instagram is the Marcus Perry IFBB Pro. My wife's under Storm_IFBB Pro. That's her nickname, Storm, by the way. So we came up with that about 6 years ago, man. So it fits her really well, man. She's a beast.
Cool. And then if somebody wants to connect with you guys in terms of coaching, Instagram is the best way, or do you guys have a website or both?
Yeah. So the website is still being built. It's not complete yet, but Instagram is definitely the best way. That's how a lot of folks are getting in contact with us now, and local folks as well.
All right. Awesome. Marcus, I just want to say, before I do a quick outro, I just want to say thank you very much for coming on, man, sharing a little bit of your life story, your bodybuilding story. And I just want to say good luck at the Olympia this year, and really appreciate your time on this Sunday. Okay.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for your time.
Yep. You're very welcome.
All right,
all of you who are tuning into another episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. I appreciate all of you. I value all of you. And as I always say, if it weren't for all of you, the podcast simply would not exist. So I appreciate all of your support. Two quick things as we wrap up this great conversation today with Marcus. If you have not done so already, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's really important, because I release all of these episodes first on YouTube, and then I'll distribute them to iTunes, CastBox, Podbean, and some of the other major podcast platforms. So if you want to stay current on all the BTM episodes, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube. And then also take this episode with Marcus, share it on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Marcus. Go ahead and tag his wife, Hayley, who is also his coach. And then also make sure you tag Behind the Muscle podcast, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.